Hey, this is Cool Dry Place Joe from the future. If you want to see how we got here, you're in the right place. So, I went ahead and scribed some lines on here to give us an idea of where our mortise is going to lay out. And what I did was so this is just to kind of refresh your memory again, this is the front wood rail piece. It would be called a stile if it was a door. Maybe we should be calling it a stile, but that seems just peculiar to me. So I'm not going to do that. So, but at any rate, this line right here represents where the cast iron is likely to come into this front piece here. This is where it's likely to exit. We don't really need to worry about that right now because we're just concentrating on this joint here of this table. So what I would like to do, let's just show you how I did this here. Is it real easy because I wanted to just, if you recall, I wanted to have this come into where our cast iron is likely to be. I keep saying likely, but you know, it's going to have to be, right? So that squiggly line is about where our cast iron is going to be. It's not, it'll come in differently, but you know what I mean. So what I did was I just sort of held this a little bit, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I held it so that the board was just a little bit past that line, like a 3/32 or something like that. And then just trace that out is easy peasy and easy peasy. So then we have our two marks that should represent the left and right extremes of where that mortise is going to be. Here, so that we get our front and back position or centering on this one top lamination, what I did was I just simply measured. I measured 3/16 down from the top and 3/16 down from my lamination line that you can just barely see right there. So that gives us 5/16 in the middle because if you recall, these boards, all of them are nominally 9/16 thick, just a hair under 3/4. So I don't have a 5/16 hollow chisel mortiser. I'm going to be using the 1/4 inch. So the 1/4 inch we'll just be able to visually center in between these two tick marks here, and that should be golden. So at this point, let's go over to the mortiser and kind of set that up to be able to do this. All right, I'm kind of stoked to be using this. I haven't used this thing in, probably 7 or 8 years. It's been quite a while. You know, you're kind of doing other stuff sometimes. I've been doing woodworking, but more carpentry stuff than woodworking. But at any rate, this is actually one of my first woodworking, like, major purchases. I'm kind of stoked about it. It's an old Multico PM20. I believe I got this from Garrett Wade or Garrett Hack, something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if they're even still around anymore. And it was like a scratch and dent special. It was kind of cool. I got a discount on it just because it was damaged. Like this thing here was originally made out of metal, but it wasn't working when I got it. It was bent and mangled, and there's a little bit of a bend over here in the sheet metal, like right over here, but it is really not consequential. But anywho, I'm stoked. I got this thing that I dragged out of the corner last night, oiled up some of the parts and whatever, took it for I just made sure the motor turned, and that should be good. So let me show you how I set this up. I'm most certainly not the foremost expert on how this gets set up, but this is the way I've been doing it. The machine is unplugged. So take my chisel, we're using the 1/4 inch chisel, put it up in the little, whatever you call it. I don't really care if it's straight at this point or if it's wonky, this doesn't matter. All I'm kind of doing is just getting it in there, and I want to get the drill bit. I'm going to get, you can't really see it, but I'm lowering the drill bit just a little bit past the chisel tip here. I don't want to have it all the way up in there. Although we probably could at this point. It's really not that critical because we might come back to this here. So actually, just so it's easier, I'm just going to put it all the way up in there. So I'm using the pressure on my finger here to hold the drill bit and the chisel up in there. I'm going to tighten down on the drill bit here. Very, very, very slowly, because that's the speed it goes. I was a little nervous when I dug this out. I actually wasn't sure if I still had this, this key. I thought I might have cleaned house and got rid of this thing. So, okay, our drill bit's up there, but it's still able to walk or move around. There is a set screw here to keep it so it doesn't move around. Now here, using this piece of wood, this is one of the tenons for the project that we're working on. And I'm going to bring it, so on this mortiser, the head moves around. I know some other mortisers are different, but on this mortiser, the head moves around. Bringing it out so it's just the back of the chisel is going to just kiss the front of this, and then we'll lower it down a little bit. So I'm down about a 1/4 inch past. You could go further. It really doesn't matter. But we don't need to have too much engagement there. We're going to loosen up that set screw. Or actually, it is loose. I'm sorry. Pressing with my thumb into the tenon, and then just making sure it isn't rocking or anything like that. That's about it. So now what we've done is we've just made sure, hopefully, if everything's done right and there wasn't any debris in the way, that the back of this mortise, this chisel mortiser, is parallel with this fence here. Provided that's good and there's no debris in there. So now let's actually set that drill bit. We want to set it just a little bit below the chisel. At least that's what I've always done. Just a hair, like a dime or something like that. So here I'm running it all the way up. I can't run it up there anymore. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. We want the drill, or at least I've always said this way, I've always set up so the drill precedes the chisel just a little. May not be the right way. That's how I've done it, and it works for me. So let's take it for a test drive. All right, I found a board that's the same thickness as the ones we're using, or should be, fingers crossed. Set it up, kind of locked it down with this, I think this is a veneer press. I don't remember where I got this. And I've always had problems when I go to pull the chisel out of the workpiece that it seems like it wants to pull up the board then too and screw things all up. So I've always put another clamp over here, even if it's not like, and I don't really need it super tight. It just needs to be here and to help eliminate the travel up of this board. It wants to tend to drag it, especially with the first hollow chisel you do, the first mortise you do. There was, I'm not quite sure, but I think that there was an option where you could get a like a toggle clamp kind of deal on the top of this, and it would help hold down your stock directly from the top here, but I'm not 100% on that. At any rate, let's plug this dude in. See if everything works the way it should. Or I think it should. I don't know why it wouldn't, but I'm not really setting it up for what we're going to do. We'll do that when we get that piece over here that we put those lines on. But right now, let's just put this on. Fair warning, this tends to be one of the screechiest machines. So we did not go down there very far. And that's fine. There is a depth stop over here, which is this loose right now. We'll set all that stuff up. I think I would like to go for our initial practice shot here. So remember, our tenon was 1.25 inches, so I want to go a little bit past that, probably about 1.5 inches. Where? So I'm going to just measure. I kind of almost have this at the very top here. Since this doesn't really have to be that critical, I'm just measuring up 1.5 inches over here, probably a little bit more, but not much. And then we're going to tighten that a depth stop up there. See if we can plunge all the way without too much. Yeah, see what I mean? This actually wants to pull the whole machine up. It's not that hard. There's not a lot of strength that you need to go down or strength that you need to go back up again. It's just that you don't want to have this board come loose and be all messed up. You don't want to have the machine come loose from your table. If you do that kind of stuff, I think that this could break. Wow, that's packed full of. Maybe I would do that in bits here and there. I'm going to try to do one right next to it again because that one will go a lot easier, I bet. So let's move this dude over a little bit here. We're doing probably about 1/3 overlap or so. Oh yeah, easy peasy. And that seems to line up, the first hole seems to line up with the second hole. And let's just do another one. Again, about 1/3 of an overlap, maybe 1/4. There, that's not bad. See, I'm not seeing any real delineated line. Let me see if you could, I'll bring it in here so you can maybe see this a little bit better, but I'm not seeing a real big line between the front, or between the first, second, or third holes we did. The little bit of a roundness that you see here is just the drill bit kind of extending past the chisel. And while that's maybe not ideal, it'll be just fine. All right, let's bring over the front wood rail here and see if we can get this set up so we make the mortise that we need to make on it. All right, brought you guys in here ultra close so you can see what's going on. So we're looking at it sideways here at the mortiser. Bring the mortise down a little bit. This is the front rail, by the way, and it's kind of backwards in here. The face, or what would be up on the table, is pointed towards our cast iron fence on the mortiser here. So hope that we understand that. I'm just lowering the chisel now to get it closer to the board so I can see the little tick marks. So this is we want to center this 1/4 inch chisel between these two little tick marks. Doesn't have to be super spot on, but the better we can get this, I think the less we're going to have for finish work. And there's a lot of different stops on this and stuff, so that we can so it has sort of a memory, and you can come back to make a consistent mortise. So this one on the back here is really just to keep it from traveling front to back, because while it does have stops, that's this shiny round kind of collar looking thing over here, and there's another one towards the back on this same rod. We don't need it to travel front and back. So some mortises you do that might be larger than than the mortise than the chisel itself would require that front to back, or a particular different style of mortise. But in this case, it doesn't. We're not doing that. So all we're doing is trying to center it up between our little tick marks here, and then we're going to use this on the back of the arm here to lock it so that it won't travel front and back. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I hope I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to raise the head back up again. And then now we need to concentrate I do want to have stops here and here. This actually may not be that crucial. Now that it's kind of coming back to me, it's been a little while, since, like I said, since I've operated this. We could just strike these same lines on our other piece, the one that will be in the back, and just go for it. Just plow out with the chisel in between the two lines on the left and right here. I think just for the hell of it, though, I think we are going to set stops if I remember how to. There's a lever back here that you probably can't really see too well that allows this whole thing to swing back and forth on these bars. Do I have enough travel right there? I do. All right, so kind of the same thing. Just going to bring the chisel down. You can't really see this other mark over here. We are right on it with the left side of the chisel. And then I'm just bringing my stop up to the back here, where it has some sort of indexy thing in the cast iron. And I'm going to bring it over here to the right-hand side and do the same. So I'm just kind of putting it right to that mark. This isn't rocket science. Then I'm going to engage this right-hand stop collar. And that should be it. Now we should be locked in and repeatable, provided we put the other. This is the reason why maybe you didn't want to set it. Is now this whole repeatable thing. I guess it's really just the one stop on the back for our left to right travel, but it all depends upon getting the other board, the one that's going to be in the rear of the table, in the same place that this one is, and it won't be because it's going to be going the other direction anyway. I mean, to have the face have the top, or what would be the top of the table against the cast iron, we'd have to have this orientated the other direction in the machine. So there's really no good way to put a stop on here or on the table or whatever to do that. So we are going to have to lay out the lines so that we can index the machine to the piece or the piece of the machine. So really what I did doesn't matter that much. I think I've done some pretty large jobs with this where I don't think I ever really set the stop that we just did. I just laid out all the mortises by hand. Sometimes it's easier because trying to actually find a way to index your board to the machine on this machine, kind of a hassle sometimes. You got to ask yourself if it's worth it. So let's turn this on and let her rip. Oh. And I kind of thought of one thing though too I want to explain before we get going. Is that one thing that I've always noticed with these, especially the smaller ones with these chisels, is that they tend to wander, if that makes sense. Like if you have more engagement on the left side or the right side, the bit will tend to wander towards that. So when you drill your first hole, because that has engagement all the way around on all four sides of the chisel, that tends to actually be pretty straight, and the bit doesn't wander left or right at all, or much. So what I generally have done to kind of correct that problem so that you don't have like a flared out mortise, not that that would really be a huge deal, but what I usually do is I'll drill this one here, we'll call it our start one. I basically will drill one at two ends, just so you got an idea why I'm doing what I'm doing. There you go. Not too bad. Now let's do the next one. Okay, this is the one that's going to be in the back of the table. This is the face of it, what will be up. This is the one that would be in the front of the table, and this is the face that would be up. Mortise we just cut. So this is where I project for the, I guess it doesn't really matter, we'll just do it from here. This is where this is where the line is where I imagine that we're going to be cutting this board. So I just need some way to kind of index one to the other. And since I already have that also on the other board, I think it's going to be a little bit easier if we just join these two lines up as best we can. So just going to extend that over there. And then over here, we'll do the same thing. Brilliant. Now we can put these two up to one another, and we get a if we get these lines together like that, then I can be able to extend my mortise markings over. I'm just going to get a little clamp on this here so it doesn't wiggle around. Damn it, you did wiggle around. There we go. Now, let's get the longer one. Going up to our line here. Are we on? We're pretty close to on. Just need it up at the top. This is our face, so I really only going to be doing that part of the lamination up there. Perfect. So that's our start and our stop, or vice versa. All right, now let's go put this guy, this back rail, in the machine. You ready? Perfect. All right, let's get this out of here and back over to the bench and see if we made a big, colossal mistake. All right, folks, I think I came to the realization here that we probably should have done the mortises first and then come back and done the tenons. So don't do as I did. I think we should have cut these first, and it would have been easier to mark where our tenons need to be. But we can save this. It's just going to be a little more tedious. So here what I'm trying to do is just get an idea, and we're going to have to use all sorts of janky methods to get this done this way now. But I'm flushing up what would be our faces of these two boards together here. And then I'm going to, in the most uncool method really, just see how we are. And it looks like I got to take off maybe a 30-second yet more off of the face of these tenons. I already started a little bit here. All right, we got the one that we have to work on here in the vise. And I have the router plane set up. This thing is really freaking handy. I got this at a flea market years ago. It's great. This is a Stanley 71.5. I put this quarter sawn white oak board on here, and it's dead flat. And I think there's a company that sells other replacement cutters you can get in here, and I have a couple different ones, I think. I'm not quite sure. But anywho, some folks will use this to dial in tenons. And also, I have a shoulder plane that I made here a while ago, quite a little while ago, that we'll be using as well. It's going to do a little bit. I'd rather sneak up on it. I'd rather have to do this a bunch rather than blow past our mark. Got a good feeling about that, guys. I think that's going to be it. All right, let's see how we did. So this is the face of the front one, and this is the face of the back one on the outside there. So this would be how it would go in there. It seems to be all right. Let's see if we can get the back one on. Shoop, doop, doop. That will probably do. A little bit of a gap here. This one isn't bad. A little bit just on this side here. Let's see what some clamps will do. I'm gonna check if it's square too, but you know, honestly, I'm not sure that that matters a whole lot, because what we're gonna be doing is cutting the whole inside of this out to sort of reference the table, the sand cast table. But let's just check anyway. That's pretty darn good right there. Yeah, that's not bad, but that's a little bit closed up. Let's see how the other piece would fit in here. I know. Yeah, all right. I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty good. I think this is working out all right. I think the next step is we should probably cut these down a little bit, at least on this side. So we have an idea where they're going to be cut out, and that's great. I don't want to cut them to that line though just yet. I think we're going to stay, long about almost half an inch or so, and then we'll work on the slots, the mortise slots, slot mortises, whatever they're called, for these things for these tenons to slide in and out of. I think we're onto something here. Okay, we cut down these a little bit on the side we're working on now, which is the side where the side where the slot mortise is going to go in. And I was looking at the rail that would go in there, and I decided, hey, let's cut this back a little bit where it will join up to the cast iron, or on the side where it's going to join up the cast iron. So I put a little mark here. We're going to take about a ½ inch off over here and a ½ inch over here. Going to leave this side with the tenon all the way through, because this will likely get flushed up then with the ends of these pieces once we get closer to the end of building this here. So I'm just going to go over the bandsaw real quick and zing out those little corners here. All right, let's clean up the little ends of these tenons here where we clipped off the corner in the bandsaw, clipped off the corner of the tenon in the bandsaw. Let's get ready to rip. No, we're not taking out the full pass. One down. Let's get the other side. Should be right about 7/16, I think. Yeah, perfect. So we'll just trim the tenons up a little bit to fit that. All right, now we're back to this thing. So we're going to take some off of both sides. All right, I think I had what might be a good idea. I decided to cut away quite a bit of the tenons. So now it's really only in, they have the full depth back here at the back here where you would see it. All right, well, let's see what that's like again, because I'm kind of curious now that we did that work to the tenon where we kind of tapered it like that. I think that's going to help out a lot. I think that's going to work. There's still a little bit of a gap here. I think these are slightly unsquare or something. So I might take a couple swipes with a hand plane, particularly on this one. Let's give that a shot. Let's see if I can see it here. I don't know if we can, but I think that's going to make our joint better. All right, I think we're ready to let the fun begin. So now it's just kind of going back and forth. It's going to certainly have to get moved. Quite a lot during this whole process here. It's pretty good back there, though. Now, let's see what it looks like downstairs. With the flashlight, maybe. So you can see over here, it's pretty much right on the mark, as far as I can tell. But over here, I think that mark is inside the cast iron table a little bit. So let's remark that and know that we have to cut to the outermost on those marks, and then we'll get the back too. So that was just optimistic me thinking that I had a clamp that was deep reach enough to get past all this and clamp down onto it. So I'm going down there with the flashlight, and where did the flashlight go? Trace out around here. You let me know if anything moves, all right? Because could be a problem. I don't think it will. I think everything will be fine. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So we have a pretty good delineated line here, and all we need to do now is cut up to this with the bandsaw. We'll probably have to do some handwork after that, like some chisel work, some sandpapering, files, some gouges, probably not gouges, but this is a little bit of a tricky corner here. I won't be able to do that in one pass with my bandsaw blade because that's just way too tight. I wish I had a little skinnier one that I could put on the bandsaw, but I just don't. So let's go back over there and try to get rid of about as much of this as we can, and we have to probably do some handwork afterwards, which will be fine. All right, so this should be a blast. So we want to try to we want to keep that line. I want to try to preserve that line as best as possible. I guess even that little line down there, I know what that's all about, but I'm going to try to keep that too. We can always get rid of that later. So yeah, this ought to be fun. Stay well inside of the line for right now. It seems weird, that one little line there. What did they say about staying well inside of the line? Okay, this is going to be slow going, folks. So we have to continue on with the scribing process to get. I'm going to work on the back one first because it will be, well, it won't be in the front. I guess I'll see a little bit less of it. Not that it really matters, but. All right, guys, I've been sanding, filing, using hand planes. Thinking about chomping on it with my teeth, but I don't think that would work out well. But I think we got it pretty well dialed in. So this is the back rail still, and it really doesn't look too bad. It's kind of coped in there just about as well, or scribed in just about as well as I think it could be. It, you know, I understand there's going to be some gaps. We're going to push light through this and some of the gaps, but I don't really care. They'll fill up with sawdust, right? So it looks pretty darn good, and I think that at this point, you might come back to this, but I think it's time going to start working on the front one and see if we can get that dialed in and looking at least as good as the back one, and then kind of see where we're at in between. Okay, folks, that took a little while, but we finally got the front one dialed in pretty good. So it's not perfect. I think we're going to do a little bit of refinement on it, but this is the point where I want to stop and see how it fits all together as one piece. Okay, guys, I've been whittling on this for a little while. So I think we have it pretty well dialed in. Still have a little bit more work to do, but I just wanted to give you a status report what's going on. So everything fits in now at this point. I did trim off a little bit on this this rail here, the short piece, and it fits, you know, it fits about as well as I would expect with the cast iron. And all of our kind of coping around the front and the back styles, the longer rails, if you will. I know everything's a rail. Fits pretty well. It's hitting the boss on both sides, which I like. It's up here towards the right side of the bandsaw, if you're facing the bandsaw, where I have this clamp to draw it in. It's pretty tight on the boss, and the bosses, both the front and back, but we have just this little bit of a gap you can see here. So that's probably not quite a 1/16, but let's just go ahead and call it that. So I think what we need to do is just bring it in a hair more on this side, both the front and the back. I'm going to actually check though too to see if we're parallel, if our outside edges of the styles here are parallel to one another, and then and see which one maybe I need to alter a little bit more than another. But you know, it's coming in pretty good. About another 45 minutes or so, and I'll probably have this sucker dialed in. Yay, because this is kind of tedious. Okay, after about another 45 minutes or so, I think we finally have this dialed in. Both the front and back piece are pretty well coped to the cast iron, and it's allowed this gap to close up on this side piece over here. So you can see it's no or minimal gap here in the front, and just a little bit in the back here. And honestly, if it was much tighter, I don't think we would be able to slide it back in, in and out with relative ease. I think this piece might get coped to the cast iron, but I think that's just about the only work left to do to this yet, is to maybe cope this into the cast iron. And then it's on the next step, which would be figuring out where we're going to actually cut this to. Before we clean this up and kind of put things away a little bit to move on to the next step, I wanted to sort of show you some of the tools that I use and a little bit about how I use them to cope this in a little better to the cast iron. So in between, I started with the chisel, and I was able to, I kind of rode the back of the bevel here, so the flat is towards, I guess the cast iron would be, and I rode the bevel to kind of scrape out some of the material or chisel out some of the material here in the middle. I didn't want to go all the way to the edges because I just thought they would be very not precise, not very easy using this at the edges. I thought it would probably chip out or do something else weird. So I didn't do that for that, but I did use this on both sides, kind of in the flat part, and then use this file and this is a half round file. This side's rounded, the other side's flat, to kind of do the finish task of making that round and sort of, coping it to the cast iron table. Did that on all the 4 surfaces like this. I used the flat side as well too, but I used it really here on where the machine surfaces of that cast iron are going to go. I also used the chisel there a little bit too, but the chisel was pulling the grain up a little bit, so I kind of did the bulk of the work with the chisel again, and then went back and filed it to make it a little bit smoother. In between those 2 places where it mounts onto the table, the machine surfaces of the cast iron table, I used a hand plane to get rid of the bulk of the work, and I undercut it a little bit. So this is supposed to be the top surface in the table when we get it mounted and installed. This is the bottom surface. So on all of these, I kind of tried to undercut, or get rid of more material here, get rid of more material here, and also here. So it was just making the job of scribing it or coping it to the cast iron table a little bit easier, because this is the only part you're really going to see is up in here. These, of course, were a little bit different, where we tried to keep them flat because this is the only machined surfaces, edges on that cast iron table. Also used a hand scraper here and there, mostly on the flat surfaces here where the machine surface is, and then also in between. These are great little tools. You can pick them up. This is a handle I made for it, which is easy to make, but that's how they're sold originally. They're probably shinier and nicer looking than that though. For that last little guy, I just used the spoke shave. This was the easiest one to do. So this has a slight curve to it. You really can't see it. It's not actually a curve either. It's sort of a curve here and then kind of flattish and then a curve here. But I use a spoke shave. Great little tools as well. But that was it. It was just slow, tedious, back and forth work. And all right, on this end, I think the simplest idea is probably the best. I think we should just square it off. Make this flush with the little short guy here and bevel the ends or keep them friendly or whatever. Maybe put a radius on the corners. Maybe just a nice bevel. I'm not quite sure. I do have another idea though. I was kind of thinking about making it kind of pill-shaped a little bit on the end. That might be kind of neat, but I still think the simpler idea is better because I don't know how this would look, but I don't know. Over here though, the shape of the door kind of means we have to cut out some material just to get the blade on and off. So we have to think about that up here, well, what we need to do. So I sort of drew out some lines that I thought might be cool and then offer some support to the metal rail that I want to have extending out to probably at least here so that we can get the fence all the way over to the column. And not have as much space when it's sort of in its parking area, if you will. So I think I'm going to redraw this, but get pretty much that shape here and maybe duplicate that on the back. I guess might as well. I can always cut it off later. Okay, we're just looking to get it close. So here's our line. I want to preserve all of that line. Try to keep our saw entirely on the waist side here. Tell you what, I would appreciate having a little bigger table right now because there's a lot hanging out of that side here. It's kind of, it's not too weird, but I know this table is going to be much appreciated. That's not bad. I think we'll just stop here. I'll just get that with a little handsaw. No big deal. All right, here's our line. Let's try to, probably won't be able to see the line when I'm doing this, but I won't be able to either. So I think that will work. All right, I know it's really confusing here, but I put a bunch of lines here representing what's going to be the outside edge of the bandsaw table out over here. And I think we're going to do a slight, very, very slight curve. So slight, I'm not even sure that we're going to be able to tell. And they're going to say, well, hey, is it even worth the trouble then? And the answer is probably not. All right, we have this all bandsawed out to shape now. And oh, I did put a little radius down here on the corner. So I just found something in the shop that was pretty close to that, but it's about a 1-inch radius, maybe a little bit less. So what I would like to do now is glue this up. Glue the 3 pieces together and then go over to the bandsaw and actually put the clamps on there. I think that will help to ensure that we don't have any fitment issues with this, that if it is a little out of square, that we at least kind of capture it because we had it on the bandsaw when we glued it up. Hopefully. We'll slide the other little piece in too that goes over here when we do all that. So let's get to gluing. Got a brush here. I think it's just a solvent brush like you do solder or something with. And a little bit of water. Want to get a little bit in the mortises here. And I think what we're going to do, I'm trying to just get it in the mortise and tenons. I don't want to actually have to, trying to not have too much glue squeeze out. Let's glue this up the right way. All right. Okay, let's slide this down carefully. No problem. Put our little piece in here on the outside. No glue. Okay, let's clamp this too. The reason why I'm clamping here is because that's right where the bosses are on the cast iron table. Probably could use a F clamp instead of the parallel, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not going bonkers tight here. I'm just kind of getting it set in, making sure this still moves. All right, that went pretty good. So I think we're going to just let this sit and do its thing for a little while. All right, this is looking pretty good. I'm stoked. I think this is going to be fantastic to have a little extra room around here. So the next thing though, we have to remove it from the cast iron table. That might be a struggle, but I think we'll win. Then sand in the outsides here, sand in the insides, get the surface dialed in because it's not quite flushed up here, and then do our mounting screws front and back. But that's going to be next episode. So please hit subscribe down below if you don't want to miss out on that. And if I earned it, a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it.